Today's video is brought to us by Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners with a 24/7 emergency hotline and plans designed specifically for self-defenders. They are offering a discount on their plan to Asp fans, so hit the link in the description for that. Mark, again, appreciate you coming on the channel and educating us so much. It really means a lot to me.
Thanks for having me.
So the video of the 4 young men from Indiana on spring break has been all over the internet. It's been on the main channel, interviewed them for extra. And of course, we've all decided that thank God that guy wasn't a killer because they could easily have died that day. But I want to talk to you about the interstate carry laws because these 4 young men were from Indiana and they were in Florida. So you can go, my favorite resource to know if your permit is valid is handgunlaw.us. If you go to handgunlaw.us, every state has its own PDF. It says, here's which permits are honored in this state. Here are the general rules. But do I have to follow the rules of where I'm from or where I'm going?
Yeah, this should be an easy one, right? Part of the reason why I think that this is confusing for people is because you got to deal with the rules of the state you're in, period. They make the rules in that state. If you don't like those rules, don't go to that state. So question 1, do you have a concealed weapons permit that's valid, right? It's got to be valid. Check it, make sure.
Check it, make sure that they recognize it.
And then make sure that make sure it's valid in the state. Sometimes people don't check. People come in and they say, did you have a license or permit or whatever? And they say, well, I used to. It expired a week before this thing happened. Well, then you don't.
Then you don't.
Then you don't. So check and make sure that you're still current. If you're gonna try to bring your firearm to another state, you got to research the ways that you can bring it there. I've had people drive, but remember, it's not just the state you're from and the state you're going. It's every state you go through. And just true story, little pause on that. I had a fellow who was driving from Arizona to another state, and he checked it, and he made sure and brought his firearm, and everything was fine. And then he got lost on the interstate, and he pulled off the road right there where Colorado intersects. There's 4 different states right there. And he went into, I think it was Nebraska, and they don't do the guns right there. They don't care if you got a permit or not. And he got pulled over right on the corner, just over the border of Nebraska. And wouldn't you know, I wound up having to fly to Nebraska to deal with the case.
Wow.
So you got to make sure every state in between that you're driving to also honors the reciprocity. Then once you get there, you have to think about how to get the gun there, whether you're flying or driving. But once you get there, you need to understand all the little nuances of that state. Where can you bring it? Can you go into a restaurant? What if they serve alcohol? Can you go near a school? There's all kinds of rules. And so, of course, there's a downside if you need it and you don't have it. But it's also fraught with peril. I wouldn't just willy-nilly bring my firearm to another state without very carefully going through the laws of that state, maybe even consulting an attorney in that state and saying, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? And paying for a quick consultation, because you can get yourself in big trouble with a firearm in another state. Now this incident, as it turned out, maybe was better that they didn't have a gun.
Yeah, maybe in this particular instance. And I've heard people fly into, say, LaGuardia, and they fly into New York City. And gosh, I mean, New York is a hugely problematic area. Well, no problem when they get off the plane because the gun's in the checked baggage and nobody's there to know. But then they check the bag to go home and declare the firearm, and NYPD shows up and arrests them for having an unregistered firearm in the state of New York. And they could be in huge trouble there.
Just as a side note, it would be so wonderful if we could get a comprehensive policy on this stuff across the nation.
National reciprocity needs to happen. My driver's license, via the full faith and credit clause, is good in every state in the union.
Not just that, but also the issue of reinstating your gun rights as well.
Yeah, I agree.
This is another hornet's nest. We get calls every single day on these. I lost my right to keep and bear arms in this state, and now I live here, and I want to restore. There's so many different problems. It's a hornet's nest. It would be great. Hopefully somebody is listening to this that has some influence in this area, but it'd be nice to have a comprehensive policy on this issue.
Here's where my libertarianism comes out. I feel like if we don't trust them with firearms, why did we release them from prison in the first place? That's just my thing, but maybe that's going to get me in trouble with folks, but it is what it is. So you have to follow the laws where you are. I joke with the people, it's just like driving. When I go to a different state, I mean, one of my first questions, is it illegal to make a right turn on red here?
That's right. You better know.
You better know, because I don't want a ticket. You know?
When you make the right turn on red and you're not supposed to, you get a little ticket. When you make a mistake with the firearm, you could be heading to prison.
Could be heading to prison. So guys, you got to follow the rules where you are. And that includes things like magazine restrictions and limits, because again, everything's good until it's not. You don't want your self-defense case to get turned into imperfect self-defense because you had a 17-round magazine in a 10-round limited state.
There's so many problems that you can have. So you really got to be very, very careful. But it can be done. And there's probably lots of examples where people went to another state, jumped through the hoops, and they needed the firearm in the other state. And if you need it and you don't have it, well,
you got problems.
You got problems.
And I like going, I carry all over the place. I was just in Texas this last weekend teaching at the Texas Concealed Handgun Association annual meetings, and my Arizona permit's recognized in Texas. And so no problems, right? I carried my firearm the whole time, knowing what the laws are. But I tell folks that, like for instance, here in Arizona, if the place isn't posted, there's no real thing about a bar as long as it's not posted according to the particular sign. But in Texas, they have a very particular sign at the front door for bars that if you cross, felony.
Yeah, I think things can even get hairy here in Arizona.
They can, for sure.
With bars and taking them in, and we get the signs now that say no guns allowed.
Right.
And we have a very convoluted kind of a rule about when someone with a concealed weapon can enter and when they can't, and where the sign's posted and when the sign, and whether you can enter to check to see if the sign is. It's more complex than it needs to be, in my opinion.
And do you think the district attorney is going to care when you say, but in my state, we do it this way?
They won't care at all. That argument's going nowhere.
So got to learn the laws where you're going, guys. Got to do things in the right way, because the jury, the district attorney, the local constabulary, the police officers and whatever are going to expect you to follow what their laws are. And if you don't, you're on the hook for the lawyer fees, guys. Mark, sure appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.